Am I the idiot for telling my boyfriend that he wouldn't be the person I called if I had an emergency? I, 28F, and my boyfriend, 26M, have been together for 2.5 years, living together for 2 years. A couple of days ago we got into argument because I told him that he wouldn't be the person I called if I had an emergency. A little background on why I said this. He used to be the person I called if I had an emergency, but every single time I have called him he has let me down. I called him when I found out I needed surgery on my knee and asked if he could take me and pick me up. He told me that work was more important. When I went into anaphylactic shock, I called him and again work was more important, and my boss and one of my coworkers left work to take me to the hospital and stayed with me the whole time. When my brother passed away, I called him for emotional support and all he said was "that sucks." Lastly, this summer my back window on my car literally exploded when I was driving with my daughter. I called him and he said he didn't know what I expected him to do and hung up the phone. I called my boss again, who came and helped me. When I told him this, he said it was mean and hurtful and asked me how he isn't there for me. I told him all the things I mentioned above. He then asked me how I've ever helped him when he had an emergency. I brought up giving him a place to live when he almost became homeless, dropping everything when he got into a car accident and driving around to get him the parts he needed to fix his car, giving him my old car to drive after another car accident. He also got into an accident in my old car, giving him my old iPhone when he dropped his into a lake and couldn't afford to get a new one, and giving him money when he doesn't have enough to cover his bills. I'm also the one who pays for all the household needs like bills, food, and anything else that's needed. I also do 95% of the cleaning and all of the cooking. After telling him all this, he said that me not texting him in the morning is the same thing as him not showing up for me in emergency situations, and that his job is more important than I am to him. We've barely talked since the fight and are sleeping in different beds. So AITA for telling him that he's not the person I would call anymore if I need help, edit or add. So this got more comments than I thought it would in a short amount of time. I thought I would maybe get like 10 max. I do have a skewed view on what a good relationship should be, since my only other serious relationships were extremely abusive. So my viewpoint for a long time was, well, if he's not screaming at me and hitting me, it's not a bad relationship. I'm leaving the country in about a week for a vacation, and my plan is to have him full move out while I'm gone. I don't think after this I will try to be in another relationship for a while and work on building up my view of myself and being kinder to myself. Edit number 2. A lot of people are asking why I stayed so long. It's not like he's Satan. I recently had to move out of my old home cause the HOA was legit insane. He moved all the big stuff and boxes by himself to the new house. He fixed the roof when it had water damage. He does contribute, just not enough. He also treats my daughter amazingly. None of our fights have ever been in front of her or anywhere that she can hear. He takes her fishing, which I know to most wouldn't seem like a lot, but she loves fishing more than anything. He is just not emotionally or financially supportive to me, which is a big issue. I wish him literally all the best in life. I think he has a lot more growing to do than I do, and we are creating an unhealthy cycle of feeding of each other and not getting what we need individually out of this relationship. Comment 1. Yes, OP, please supervise his move out. Letting him do it while you're out of the country is not a good idea. Edited to add, I see in other comments that you're going to have a ranch hand supervise his move while you're out of the country. That's better than nothing, and could prevent outright property damage, but will this ranch hand know which stuff is yours versus his and what he's actually allowed to take? Or will the ranch hand feel awkward about the situation and possibly leave if pressured to do so? Ultimately, this guy is your employee, which makes the whole thing potentially very uncomfortable for him. Comment 2. I literally had to hold my phone an arm length away. You not texting him in the morning is the same, is equivalent, equals him not showing up for an emergency? The audacity. His job is more important to him than you? Well, then his job, and his job alone, can help him with his accidents, his lost phones, his bills, his cooking and cleaning, because you should have been gone for good after those sentences alone. Gain some confidence and self-worth and leave his useless ass, NTA. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for telling my BF that he ruined my NYE and asking him to apologize to all of our friends? My BF, John, and I have a nice relationship, the most stable one I ever had for sure. He is a great person who is appreciated by both my family and my friends, and who makes me a better person. John had always been extremely patient and, sometimes too, kind. Which is why his behavior that I will talk about is bothering me a lot. For context, John lost his mother 3 years ago, on the evening of the 24th of December. My parents and me live in Germany, however my parents are English, so this year, it was decided that Christmas would be spent in the UK, and of course I invited John. The 24th had been a day John always spent with his grandmother. However, the tickets were cheaper on the 24th to go to the UK, and even though I proposed to go on the 25th, John told me it was okay to leave on the 24th. So we left. The first part of the journey we were at one of my father's closest friends who just lost his wife. So everyone was in mourning and it was a difficult atmosphere. Also, the 2 days family and rest of the time alone time with John was reduced to spending time with one of my family members every day and having no time for ourselves. Me and my siblings argued, my parents argued, siblings, me and parents argued. It was horrible, but John stayed calm and comprehensive. We came back in the morning of the 31st, slept and then spent time with some of my friends. John was okay, not himself, but not unpleasant. Afterwards we went out. John isn't particularly for that kind of music we listened to at the party, hardcore metal, but whenever I asked if he was okay, he said yes. At a certain moment, we went to another party in a small venue, there was also hardcore metal. I know John doesn't like hardcore metal, I told him before, I told him he could go home whenever he wanted. He seemed pissed at a certain moment. Told me he wanted to go home, I told him stay for another 20 minutes, make an effort. This was at 4 in the morning. John then lost it and said, I spend the 24th and 25th with your arguing family, I have done enough efforts. I started crying. He told me how he would have wanted to be with his family, which he didn't express to me before then John left. And in front of my friends he gave me a kiss on the cheek which shocked everyone. I told him when I came home that in no way did I appreciate him arguing with me in public, that he ruined my birthday and that he is a party pooper for behaving in this way and that I expect him to apologize. To all my friends who were at the party. Comment 1. And had to be at a place with mourning when 3 years later you're still not over a missing parent, especially the holidays. Mourning, fighting, bad music and 4 a.m. Plus told him he could leave and then wouldn't let him. Comment 2. And after traveling for the holidays, getting back like early that morning, I guess, then going out until 4 a.m.? Guy was probably just physically exhausted too. Which makes it harder to keep on an even keel emotionally, and he still wasn't that bad, didn't go off and insult her, just said he'd had enough. Yeesh. Now for the next story. Am I the idiot for calling out my boyfriend and kicking out his best friend after they did something extremely stupid? For context, my boyfriend Ezra, 28M, and Ike, 25F, have been together for 2 years. We have shared an apartment since last September and we're happier than ever. One of Ezra's closest friends, Nick, 27M, was staying with us for a couple of days. Ezra and Nick were roommates for a few years at college, but Nick moved to Spain, so this was the first time I actually met him. Nick stayed 2 nights at our apartment, but the first night he complained about our guest room's bed. He is pretty tall, taller than my BF, so he'd be around 6'4", and he said the bed was too small. My BF made the best out of the situation and dismantled the bed, put the mattress on the floor, and that was it. They spent the entire day talking in that room and by the evening they basically cancelled our plans together. I thought it was rude to me, but I let it pass. Nick continued gatekeeping Ezra for the rest of the next day, but honestly I didn't mind BC. I had my own night out with my friends. The conflict was that at some point on the second night, when I was out with a couple of my friends, Ezra stepped on broken glass. They didn't tell me until the next morning. I got mad that Nick himself basically disinfected, applied bandage and applied a steri strip adhesive. Ezra is diabetic and he can't mess with that. I told them they were stupid and irresponsible. My father is a doctor, so I take that seriously. Nick is not a doctor, he is a bartender and a college dropout. We, the 3 of us, immediately went to the That morning I was okay with them spending time together, but that was too much, so I said he should find somewhere else to stay when we were waiting in the for my BF, if he wanted to act like a child. Nick didn't respond and he didn't say anything to me. He left after a while and a few hours later he texted Ezra he was leaving. The rest of that week was very uncomfortable. My BF barely spoke to me, and now he's still giving me the silent treatment. My point of view is that I handle the situation very maturely, and I don't think I was out of place. Comment 1. YTA. Massively. Nick continued gatekeeping Ezra for the rest of the next day. That doesn't sound like gatekeeping. It sounds like spending time with the person you are visiting. Ezra stepped on broken glass. They didn't tell me until the next morning. I got mad that Nick himself basically disinfected, applied bandage and applied a steri strip adhesive. Ezra is diabetic and he can't mess with that. I told them they were stupid and irresponsible. My father is a doctor, so I take that seriously. Nick is not a doctor, he is a bartender and a college dropout. What? You are also not a doctor, which I shouldn't need to explain to you. Medical degrees are not passed down through genetics. It sounds like they responded completely normally to the situation. I was okay with them spending time together, but that was too much, so I said he should find somewhere else to stay when we were waiting in the for my BF, if he wanted to act like a child. How was he acting like a child? You sound super jealous and controlling. If anyone is being juvenile in this situation, it seems to be you. My point of view is that I handle the situation very maturely, and I don't think I was out of place. Well, you're wrong. Comment 2. Oh, damn. I missed the fiancé's reply. Thank you for that. Okay, so fiancé is hospitalized in a terrible accident and that OP can't be bothered to care. So his sister from half a world away arranged food/water deliveries for him, but he still thinks OP is the love of his life. What alternate universe are we in that he has been abused his whole life and can't see that he's still being abused after laying it out that way?